on the gallery view so it stays both faces.
I've got it on gallery view now. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, Oscar, it's great to catch up with you. And uh, this stuff in Los Angeles is crazy, and people are really struggling. There's so much loss and grief, and it's made me think a lot about how do we build resilience and how do we support people in working through grief and trauma. And I especially know that mothers have a lot of anxiety right now because it's not clear if the water is clean, the air is clean. They're concerned about is it safe now? And many had to evacuate their homes. Many lost their homes. Many lost their schools. And it made me think of the times that we have talked about nervous system management. And so I was hoping that you would just share with us the tenets that we've talked about so many times about the tiny things and the small things that we can do day to day.
Yeah. And of course, and I'm so feeling for the communities in Los Angeles. It's been um, so horrific just to watch what's going on. And Australia's been through uh, similar things in terms of fires and floods in the past, and there is a time frame. It takes a number of years for communities to sort of find themselves again. And in this initial time, in terms of when things are still so fresh, typically what happens is the body goes into a stress response. It goes into a threat response, if you like, to meet the challenges. And
Mm.
that's the correct thing that should be sort of happening. But what can happen as things start to calm down and people start to go back to some sort of normal living, whatever that looks like after a catastrophe like this, the body can stay in threat response. And there's a concept that the body keeps the score. And so the body can internalize the trauma. And an event like that is traumatic. Doesn't matter who you are, but you don't have to necessarily be traumatized because of something traumatic. And one of the ways to really help support that trauma not becoming trauma is to make sure the body doesn't stay in threat response ongoing.
Mm.
And so, maybe a very simple starting point for people, and we talk about this with when we're working with our mothers and our mothers groups, is to try to look at doing tiny things and small things in terms of for the nervous system and for the threat response. And tiny things might just be 20 seconds. Can I just get into a state of active relaxation for 20 seconds with everything that's kind of going on and all the to-do list and the, as you alluded to, Sarah, the worry that mothers carry for everyone in their communities, not only their families and themselves, and but for their communities, their emotional load and mental load is so high when you have this collective thing going on. Um, so the tiny things with 20 seconds is really about, can I just find a place of stillness for 20 seconds? And then I can go back to the busyness, and that's okay. The elements that are useful include uh, paced respiration, so just slowing down your breathing. And so for 20 seconds, you might be doing 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out. It's really important that the out breath is even. So the amount of air coming out every second is similar, and that can engage the relaxation part of the nervous system. And then the other part that's really useful is to bring in some physical sense to help keep the body in the here and the now just for that 20 seconds. Because what can happen is that, especially when there's a lot of emotion going on, the brain is constantly going into the past, projecting into the future, and just juggling those two spaces. It's even harder um, uh, in a situation like this to literally be calm and present. So, bringing in a physical sense. So, example, if you're having a cup of tea, smell the cup of tea. So that's a physical, and then 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out. It's really
Mhm.
useful to have cues. the little things that will prompt you to do that. Maybe sitting on the toilet, and the physical sense there might just be, okay, I'm just stroking the fabric on my shirt and just seeing what that feels like. So just bringing some sort of physical sense for that, and then 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out. And then trying to do a small thing every day for 20 minutes. Can we do something for 20 minutes where the body is relatively present and we're in a state of relaxation? And so small things can be a gratitude practice, very challenging when you're going through collective trauma. It could be a meditation or a guided meditation. I think there's a lot, especially when there's a lot going on. Guided meditations can be really useful. Yoga Nidra is one that I'm particularly fond of, but there are many guided meditations which just all you have to do is listen to the voice and you lie down, and it's trying to get you into a state where your nervous system is more relaxed than you are stressed.
Mm.
What happens with chronic stress and threat response, it's the other way around. You at your baseline, you're more stressed than you are relaxed at your baseline, and that's what can keep the trauma ingrained in the system. So we need to, obviously you're going to be activated quite often when you're going through a cleanup job and a reassessment job, and in terms of the communities and where to from here. But we need, it's so important during that to have the opposite of going, okay, I need to get out of stress response, get out of threat response, and just get into relaxation response. It can be really hard initially. It can feel very academic, and I'm not getting there initially, but that's okay. Um, there can be especially after a few days with a bit of repeating, it can become easier. It feels more natural, and then you start to feel the benefits. And then you start to look forward to the 20-minute thing you're doing every day. Because it's almost like a
Mm.
little holiday from the chaos and all the pedaling and the stress. So, and if you're able to do uh, things for a longer, maybe a 60-minute massage or meditation once a week, that can be very useful. But accessing those things, especially at a time like this, can be very challenging as well. But just so if we can focus on those tiny things and small things, they have a chance of keeping that trauma that's happening out there from kind of sinking in and kind of getting stuck into the nervous system.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know that when I was teaching nursing students for so many years, I would teach them that, especially in an emergency situation, it's very important to stay connected to your body so that your brain can work, right? Because if you're just in fear and you can't even feel your body, you often are not going to be able to access good decision making in your brain. And so I would ask them to do the practice that again takes like 20 seconds less, even, is just to, can you feel your feet? Like, can you feel your feet on the floor? And if you're sitting, can you feel your seat on the seat, right? Can you just like actually check in with your body? And I would say that a lot of my clients who are perimenopause and menopause, anxiety in the body is felt in a really different way. And even folks who had to evacuate and, didn't lose everything, but just the having to evacuate. We have the entire city. So many people had to evacuate. There was so much fear in the entire Los Angeles city. So the way that you drink a glass of water or a cup of tea, like those little tiny things can really shift how you feel in your body, and it becomes a practice. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes, the more it just becomes a habit of how you live. So while you were even talking, I was like slowing down my breathing and feeling my seat on the seat. And this is just a really great reminder. And we in Los Angeles really appreciate everybody around the globe thinking about how things are going. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. And just wishing your communities a happy and quick recovery.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Do you want to do another just like